Welcome back everyone, it's me Matt, appreciate you stopping by on today's video. So what are we looking at on screen right now? Well, it's a tank that feels like it was kind of pulled straight out of Command & Conquer Red Alert, and by the way, it was one of my favourite games as a kid. The Swedish Stridsvagn 2000. This beast was designed to be the next level game changer, packed with some really insane firepower, as you can see, and a very futuristic design for its time. If you've been around the channel, you know I've covered some weird and wonderful tanks before, like the Object 490, the massive 152mm Russian super tank. But today's feature might just take the cake. Honestly, it's not really that hard to feel a little bit heartbroken that this vehicle never became a reality. Just truly though, imagine how incredible it'll be to see something like this come to the battlefield of today. It's a beast. It's an absolute beast. Now, if you look at it, it has some sort of resemblance to a CV90-120, but if you notice, it's like two CV90s mushed together. A massive gun with a Bofors on the side of it as a coax, along with a machine gun. This thing is very fascinating. So let's dive into this tank and explore this weird and wonderful vehicle and its story, along with its cutting-edge features and what could have been one of the most powerful armoured vehicles of its time. So the Stridsvagn 2000 was Sweden's bold and innovative attempt in the 1980s to develop a, quote, tank of maximum parameters, unquote, aiming to match or surpass the capabilities of the best main battle tanks of its era. Motivated by the need to counter advanced Soviet designs such as the T-80U and address the limitations of their aging armoured fleet, Sweden embarked on this ambitious project. Although the STRV 2000 ultimately did not enter production, it really does remain a fascinating chapter in Swedish military history. It showcases a lot of cutting-edge design principles, although not actually put into full effect, and for its time it's fairly advanced technology, but also the huge challenges of military procurement during a period of geopolitical transition and cost curtailment. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, global tank development was advancing massive pace across the board. Leading nations were conceptualizing MBTs with unprecedented firepower, particularly of that in Russia, and protection and mobility were also being evolved to counter the new changing battlefield threats. Sweden, known for its unique and forward-thinking military designs, recognized the growing need to modernize its armed forces. The Swedish Army's armoured fleet at the time consisted primarily of the STRV-103S tanks, which I've done a video on before, and various modifications of the British Centurion tank, designated the STRV-101 and STRV-102. While these tanks have been upgraded over the years, they are really reaching their limits for their operational lifespan. A study was conducted by the Swedish military concluded that the aging vehicles, even with continued maintenance, would really not remain very effective beyond the early 1990s and even at the exact time that the studies were conducted. The need for replacement became absolutely urgent considering the threats from the east. The Swedish defense strategy necessitated a tank capable of withstanding the firepower and mobility of Soviet armor while providing superior performance on Scandinavian terrain, which, as we all know, is snowy and nasty in the winter, and in the summer muddy and sloshy from all the melt. To address this challenge, the Swedish military partnered with HB Utveckling AB, a joint venture between Bofors and Hägglunds, to develop the STRV 2000. This collaborative effort aimed to create a tank that would not only meet Sweden's specific needs, but also set a benchmark for global tank designs as well. For its research and early studies, the project formally began in 1984, but its foundation was laid in the 1970s through the UDES, or Understödjande för ett delat eldsystem program. This program explored several innovative tank concepts, including the UDS-03 and the UDS-19. These experimental vehicles provided valuable insights into mobility, armor configurations, and firepower, influencing the initial requirements of the STRV 2000. Some of the key requirements established for this vehicle were superior protection, prioritizing survivability through advanced composite armors and explosive reactive armor systems, something that had already been used very heavily on previous designs when they were trying to upgrade the STRV 103. They also wanted to increase a massive amount of firepower, incorporating a main gun capable of defeating the most advanced Soviet armored tanks, which was a big ask. Crew safety was also very important, so they wanted to compartmentalize out blowout panels for ammunition storage for this massive gun. Designing a tank capable of high speeds and maneuvering in Sweden's varied and challenging terrain was also absolutely paramount. The initial design proposals for the tank included multiple configurations ranging from conventional crew layouts to radical concepts featuring uninhabited turrets, which as we know of today is not really very radical anymore. Early designs considered the use of NATO standard RH-120 120mm smoothbore guns, as seen on the M1 Abrams and the Leopard 2 tanks at the time. However, the Swedish military analysts deemed this weapon inefficient against emerging Soviet threats, particularly the advanced armour of the T-80U. By 1985, the decision was made to adopt a 140mm smoothbore gun. It's a very common theme in my channel lately. Developed in collaboration with Rheinmetall, this weapon promised a significantly higher muzzle energy, obviously, and penetration capability, obviously, doubling the lethality compared to the 120mm gun. The 140mm gun represented a leap in firepower, but its large size and massive recoil posed a lot of integration challenges. To complement this beautiful gun, the design also incorporated a 40mm Bofors automatic cannon. Of course, it's Swedish. How would you not want to put a Bofors 40mm gun on your vehicle? This secondary coaxially mounted weapon was intended to engage lighter targets, reducing the reliance on the main gun and conserving its precious ammunition, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't be able to hold much inside of there. And of course, the tank was equipped with a few machine guns for anti-infantry and close defense roles. Now, the ambitious specifications really presented some massive engineering challenges, as you can probably assume already. The tank's combat weight was an estimated 55 to 60 tons, necessitating a powerful 1500 horsepower engine to maintain that mobility that was required for the Swedish terrain. The MTU 883 engine paired with a Renk transmission was selected to provide the required power. Hydropneumatic suspension systems were incorporated to enhance off-road performance and allow height adjustment for varying terrain. The T140/40 configuration emerged as the leading design. It featured a crew of 3, a driver in the hull, and a gunner and a commander in the turret. A front-mounted engine enhancing crew survivability by adding an additional barrier against frontal attacks, advanced composite and ceramic armor providing exceptional protection against kinetic and chemical threats. In the late 1980s, though, a full-scale wooden and metal mock-up of the T140/40 was constructed. This prototype demonstrated the tank's very innovative features, including its compacted turret and the advanced weapon systems for aiming and engaging first round on target. However, the prototype lacked a functioning engine or operational chassis, so it was basically just a static display for testing. The vehicle's armor system was quite specific and one of the most advanced features of the tank overall. Using a combination of both metal and ceramic composites, the tank achieved unprecedented levels of protection. For kinetic energy protection, it was quoted to equivalent of 800mm of rolled homogeneous armor, and for chemical energy protection, it is equivalent of 1200mm of rolled homogeneous armor, effectively neutralizing most shape-charged warheads. Additional survivability features included infrared signature suppression to reduce detectability by thermal imaging systems, radar deflecting surfaces to minimize the tank's radar cross-section, and blowout panels with armored shutters to protect the crew in case of ammunition detonation. Despite its heavy weight though, it was very, very fast for what it was meant to do, approximately 70 km an hour on road and about 45 km an hour off-road. That engine was beefy, and of course the hydropneumatic suspension was really a superior cross-country performance suspension at the time. Ammunition was destined to be at the rear of the vehicle, but the different variants kind of changed its configuration as it went through its various derivatives. The T140/40 was the flagship variant, incorporating the 140mm gun and the 40mm secondary cannon, and its advanced turret design and front engine layout provided that balance of firepower, protection, mobility, and making it the most realistic candidate for production. The L140 variant used a modified CV90 chassis. While lighter and more mobile, it reduced the armor and lack of secondary weapon systems and limited its overall effectiveness. This variant was considered more of a tank destroyer than the full-fledged MBT. There was then the O140. The O140 variant utilized the CV90 chassis but incorporated a modular add-on armor to meet the protection requirements. Its complexity and cost, however, made it a lot less attractive for the Swedish military. There were massive challenges, and which unfortunately led to its cancellation, and there were several factors in this. First of all, just the pure technical difficulties. The 140mm gun development faced huge delays, and its integration posed significant engineering challenges. More and more so, the 120mm just seemed like a more obvious solution. The the cost of the project was escalating hugely, and it made it very difficult to justify to government and the people around to say, yeah, let's keep going with this, particularly in a post-Cold War era. Which, unfortunately, was another nail in the coffin for this vehicle. The collapse of the Soviet Union really reduced the urgency for advanced MBTs at the time, and with the cost increasing, it was kind of a no-brainer to say, do we really need to invest? Competition trials with the American M1 Abrams and the German Leopard 2A4 demonstrated that the needs of these existing tanks were a lot more cost-effective and readily available, and Europeans clearly were going full charger on the Leopard. It seemed very silly for Sweden to push on with a own-built vehicle which was costing them a lot of money, a lot of challenges between the people that were producing it, and the technical difficulties for it. By 1991, Sweden opted to procure the beautiful Leopard 2A4, later designated the STVRV 122, marking the end of the Stridsvagn 2000 project. Now, although the vehicle never really entered service, its development, I think, left quite a lasting impact on Swedish defence innovation and their ideas. I think it's a really smart move for what they were trying to achieve, and there was enough time and resources to push into it. It could have been Sweden's main battle tank for quite a long time. The project demonstrated the importance of modularity, advanced armor systems, and survivability features that most modern MBTs are still pushing for today. I just made a video on the recent Leopard 2 upgrade that's pushing for a 140mm gun, and some of the features that this tank is pushing for. Certainly not that 40mm Bofors, but a 30mm Cannon RWS on top. Yeah, it's trying for that. And the lessons learned from this vehicle, I think, influenced substantial levels of subsequent military projects, and remain fairly relevant in the discussions of armoured vehicle design today. The vehicle, to me, also stands as a bit of a testament to Sweden's engineering ambition, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a bit of a case study to say, we've pushed really hard for something, we have a great idea, which I really do think this is a great idea, but it balances a little bit on the innovation front and also some of the practical constraints. We're all seeing that 140mm gun that's floating around the Western world of tank design is causing some constraints, some concerns, and it's a problem that we are just well ahead of now in trying to address. Of course, the Stridsvagn 2000 wanted that 140, and I think many tanks of today still want that 140, but it's just not as simple as that. The fact, though, is that it's a bit of an unrealized innovative design that I really do think challenges military procurement overall in the ever-evolving nature of armoured warfare. We keep talking about we need bigger, better. Is it the way, though? Is this something we really, really require, is bigger, better guns? We're talking about drones. So many people in my comment section are saying, well, $200 DJI drone could take out this multi-million-dollar tank, and it's a very accurate fact. It's something that I think needs to be taken a lot more seriously in the tanking world. I don't think tanks are out for the count yet. I think we have a lot more to work with in the armoured world. But the Stridsvagn 2000, I personally think, is not something of a concept that we're going to see less of. I think we're going to see more of these kind of designs, and I really respect this fascinating example of what could have been. What do you think, though? What do you think of this vehicle? What do you think of the 140mm option that Sweden presented and procured for its own design of the future that never came to be? I'd love to hear your points and opinions on this. Let me know in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, if you could be so kind as to leave me a like or leave me a comment. I've been saying in many of my videos recently, but the algorithm really does not like me right now. I've got like 425,000 subscribers. My videos barely make past the threshold of about 40 to 50,000 views, which is very peculiar. Ever since the kind of end of 2022, I think due to some Google-related matters and my particular country that I live in, my channel's being throttled down, and it's really hard to see that. I do this for fun, I do it for entertainment. It is just me, I'm all on my own doing this, so there's no sympathy choir here. It's just, it'd be really nice if I could get more of my audience back to watching my content. With that subscriber base, it's just very peculiar that my videos don't actually push past the kind of 50,000 view threshold. So maybe a couple of likes and some comments would really, really help out the channel. It would mean the world to me if you could. Thanks again for watching, folks. Have a wonderful day. All the best. Bye-bye.